as time went by, I would go outside and look up and pray for a cloudy night, because if you had a bright, clear light, you knew, sure as God made little green apples, that there would be the Thames, that lovely silver streak that was better than a flare path for the bombers, and they would come, and we didn't know where they were going to drop their bombs or anything else. But if it was dull, cloudy, bit of fog about and that, it didn't make their task any easier, and on the whole you would get, well, they might miss us, but you didn't feel like a sitting duck.
Raid wardens, they used to patrol the streets when they were on duty, looking to make sure nobody was showing a light, because we all had to black out our windows. You can buy, I believe, blackout curtains, which was a thick black curtain, and you either hung it out like normal curtains, or else you put it on wooden frames.
I think as far as the war's concerned, I think the fears were, I can remember with the air raid, you'd hear the siren in the night and you'd have to run down to the shelter.
It used to come every night. Quite a few people, regulars, used to come there because they were petrified, I suppose. A lot of people were petrified. We
had one bad night when I think a lot of our windows were blown out at home and so forth, but we were down in the air raid shelter, and it was just when we went back in there was shrapnel all over the place and all the windows were shattered.
Well, they used to say that even a cigarette being smoked, the glow from an end could be seen from the air, so an aircraft on a clear night could even see somebody having a smoke.
I remember when there was, we were hiding sometimes from air raids under. My mother had a big dining table. And we had a hid in there, and I remember my little boy saying, "I don't want the house to fall down," which was rather sad.
Yeah. And then when the air raids were on, I used to have to go down the shelters there, which wasn't very nice. They always smelt horrible. I can go into, if I go into a mock-up of an old air raid shelter, I walk in there and that smell, it's that sort of horrible damp concrete smell. It was awful. We were never allowed to play in our shelter. We just went in there when the bombs were on, and that was it. I can remember at night I used to lie in bed, and when you get one plane would drone and it would go on and on and on, you just sort of buried your head and hoped it was one of ours and not theirs.
My father went and got this little electric fire, you know, the old-fashioned ones with a sort of reflection on the back. Well, they wouldn't be safe now, but in those days, my father went and got it and brought it down the shelter for little Billy, and he put it up the head of where he was sleeping, and he got a pillow that was all feathers, and he caught a light. It caught a light, but it didn't flare up. It just smouldered, you know.
I can always remember one lady saying she'd only got one daughter, and she'd had this daughter during the war, and she said she decided she'd never have another one because it was so scary during the war. She used to have to put, if the air raid started, she'd put her little girl in the cupboard. You know, she was only a wee baby then. She didn't understand that she was being locked in safety.
The main, I suppose, in Egham town was a string of 15 500-pound bombs stretched from Egham bypass right through to the Grove, which is the other side of the high street, and that, as I have already mentioned, it hit Argyll's shop, which is where Tesco's is today. In fact, there's a plaque on Tesco's shop to say that 3 people were killed there. That was the owner's daughter and 2 evacuees.
The real thing was that night when those pilotless planes started, when they came out of the blue, literally they were used to call them buzz bombs, and that's what they were. you saw these things buzzing along, sort of with a propeller sort of up there in the sky, and then you found suddenly, if the engine cut out, as it were, they would plummet straight down. Of course, that is what they were, and you got to realise that, and everybody was hanging out of their bedroom windows looking at them, not realising what they were. They were flying bombs, and as they hit the ground, they would explode.
I remember sitting on a big sofa in my mother's drawing room, and an aeroplane went over very, very low, and I was scared then, and I flung myself over my 2 children that I had at the time.
Yes, we had sort of square, big frames. My father used to just fit in. They were black paper, you know. But yes, it was. It was quite scary. It was very dark, very dark. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was a very sturdy thing, and probably that was the most sensible thing to do, because, you know, well, if you have a direct hit, the Lord help you, but anything less, I mean, it would do very well, and everybody tried to construct blackout curtains. I mean, the wardens did go round, just like in Dad's army, blowing whistles and bawling out, put that light out or whatever, and people did take it seriously.
I was at Strode's Grammar School, and on Monday, it was Monday in November, I can't say the exact date, I came home for lunch at home, and we heard a plane, and it sounded, you could always tell a German plane from a British plane, because I think all theirs were diesel engines, whereas British engines were petrol, and they kind of made a brum, brum, brum noise.
But you could hear these bombers overhead, you know, you knew they were Germans, because the German aeroplane seemed to what would be termed hunting. The engines would hunt. They were different to British airplanes engines. The German airplane engines, a lot of them were diesel engines, and they did this hum business, you know. You knew exactly what they were the enemy, okay.
And I rushed outside with my father, and we looked up, and there was a German plane circling in the area, and the guns were firing, but nowhere near where the plane was, and it just did a couple of circuits, then flew away. Then we had a German aircraft in the fire station yard, which was there for the public to see, to drum up people to give money for the war effort. I think it was for an aircraft. A Spitfire was supposed to cost £5,000. So the money was supposed to be going to provide a Spitfire, obviously to fight the German planes in the sky. And there was a gentleman known as Lord Haw. He stated that anybody showing a German shot down aircraft with to raise money, they would bomb that town. And sure enough, on Friday, that string of bombs dropped.
Oh, goodness.